Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you and the ranking member for having this hearing. I want to thank both of you for being here in front of the committee and your willingness to serve on the Fed. I'm going to start with you, Ms. Shelton. Do you think it's a good idea to sell our public lands?
I'm sorry?
Do you think it's a good idea to sell off our public lands?
To sell off public lands? Senator Tester, honestly, I've never considered that, and
Okay.
I don't have any opinion.
In a 2009 book that you wrote, you said, for the purpose of balancing our budget, we should consider, and I paraphrase, selling the Postal Service, Amtrak, and federal lands.
I don't recall taking that position. It's not something I'm strongly advocating.
Well, it's an important issue. Where do you live?
I live in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Okay, so they probably don't have a lot of federal lands in Fredericksburg, Virginia. In Montana, we do have a lot of public lands. And if we've got people out there in positions of power that are in the position of making sure that unemployment is maximized, as we do in the Fed, and we have people that have written about selling off things like the Postal Service and Amtrak and our federal land holdings, that's a problem. Would you see it as a problem?
I understand what you said, that would be a problem for the local economy or the area that you're speaking of, but
But not generally for the country?
well, I think it's always disconcerting to change employment or make some transition away.
Well, I think it's also important to note that these public lands drive an economy in Montana, and Montana's only got 1 million people and a little over 1 million people, but it's about $7 billion to our economy in Montana. So somebody who would advocate this would have pretty significant impacts on the 72,000 people who work in this outdoor industry in Montana.
I believe, Senator Tester, that's a decision up to Congress, would have nothing to do with the Federal Reserve.
But you're right, but it does have impacts on people that are in positions of power, and I will tell you, has been pointed out with previous questioners, the Federal Reserve is a position of power.